Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Packed room here. Tonight is the December 27th meeting of the Social Circle Planning Commission. We do have a few items on the agenda. We'll get through them as quickly as we can. We do have a quorum present with Adolphus Gaither, Valerie Walhart, Glenda Brown, and Scott Gaither present. Other members are not here. For those that were here last month on November 28th, that had an opportunity to review the minutes, I was absent, so I cannot neither comment nor vote on the minutes, but if everyone has had an opportunity to review those, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
And I'll second.
We have a motion to accept the minutes by Adolphus Gaither, seconded by Valerie Walhart. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous, thank you. The first item is a public hearing of new business, is a variance request from Jeff Bonnick, variance from section 3.7.2.I of the Unified Development Code to increase the size of an accessory structure to more than 50% of the gross square footage of the principal structure and larger than 1,000 square feet. Oh. Mr. Bonnick?
Yes.
Okay, if you'll just give us a minute. Ms. Davis, in just a moment, sir. Ms. Davis is going to provide us with a staff report. And upon her closing of her staff report, you'll have a total of 10 minutes to speak. You don't have to speak for 10 minutes. You can reserve some time for rebuttal. Should you think there's anybody here to speak, deal with what your request is. But after you speak for your turn, we'll open the public hearing to anybody there here that would like to speak in favor of your request, and then anybody who'd like to speak in opposition. Once that closes, then the planning commission may have specific questions for you, may have questions for Ms. Davis. We may discuss amongst ourselves, and then we make a recommendation. If you don't make a decision, our recommendation is forward to the city council. The city council will host a similar public hearing at their meeting, and they'll make their decision on your variance request.
Very.
Is that clear as mud?
Yes.
Correct. Ms. Davis?
So as you mentioned, the request is to add on to the existing accessory structure, which is approximately 800 square feet based off of my measurements on QPublic. The proposed addition would be an additional 936 square feet, resulting in an accessory structure that would be approximately 1,736 square feet total. This would violate the section that is referenced of the Unified Development Code, which only allows for accessory structures to be 1,000 square feet or 50% of the size of the principal structure, whichever is less. So the applicant's principal structure is a house that is 2,704 square feet. So half the size of the house will be 1,352 square feet, which is greater than 1,000 square feet as well. I did want to draw your attention to under the staff analysis, under B1, these lot sizes are a little bit larger than your typical single family residence. I mean, this is a 5-acre lot. And a neighboring property owner has an accessory structure that is approximately 1,100 square feet. So it is already over that 1,000 square feet threshold in the UDC. Staff's recommendation is a denial of the request, but should the planning commission choose to approve the request, staff recommends that there be a condition that the accessory structure should not exceed 1,352 square feet, which is half the size of the house. So it would at least meet one of the requirements of the Unified Development Code.
Any questions of Ms. Davis at this time? Ms. Davis, just to verify, this property is zoned AG correctly?
Yeah. Yes, this property and the surrounding properties are mostly zone AG. There's a couple nearby that are zoned residential as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Bonnick,
Good evening.
thank you for being here. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas. I'm not sure where she got the square footage measurements, but my measurements come out to the total existing building plus the addition will be roughly 1,525 square feet. So according to those numbers, I'm basically asking for a variance of like 175 square feet. And my intent is to build an addition to the existing building with 2 roll-up doors and basically make it a second garage.
Okay. Would, if approved, would the addition be towards the rear or towards the front?
Toward the rear, so if you're facing the property from the street, you wouldn't even see the addition.
Your building now currently, what size is that?
It's about 600 square feet,
Okay. And what's the material, exterior material?
metal,
Okay.
wood frame with metal exterior.
Okay. Would the, if approved, would the new addition be the same material?
Exact construction to match.
All right. Anything else you'd like to
No,
add?
no?
Any questions for that?
Is this gonna house a business of any sort?
No,
Cottage
ma'am.
business?
No.
Just
I have a old collector pickup truck I want to house in there, as well as a Kubota tractor.
Any questions? Well, you have some time for rebuttal, should you think you need it. At this time, we'll open the public hearing for anybody who would like to speak in favor of this request.
Didn't sign up.
But if you'd like to sign up and stand up.
You figure the one I should.
There should be one that says variance and speak for.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm Jim Bones, and I live kind of cat a corner from Jeff, across the street on Clover Drive. Jeff's new to the neighborhood, just met him just about a month ago. We had the discussion about the traffic on our drive. Yeah, the current building can actually barely be seen from the road anyway. I think from our vantage point, we probably have the best view of it, but it's obscured mostly by the principal house. As a neighbor, I have no concerns. Actually, because I hadn't had a chance to talk to Jeff about, my main concern was this: how big is it going to be, and is it going to house a business? And based on the question and answer here tonight, I've got no concerns at all, and I'd be in favor of him getting the variance approval to go up the extra 175 square feet or whatever it is.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah. So that's all I got. 618 Clover Drive, just again, catty corner from Jeff.
You have the two journals here for you?
Yes, yeah.
Is not seeing a whole lot, Mr. Bonnet. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak in favor? If not, anybody like to speak in opposition? So we'll close the public hearing portion of our meeting. And this will be, talk to staff or ask you additional questions, things like that, since the public hearing is closed. Ms. Davis? For our purposes, the ordinance says the maximum square foot is either 1,000 square feet for accessory structure or 50% of the principal structure. Is that correct?
Or whichever is less. Yeah, so in this case, the lesser would be 1,000 square feet.
As stated, I do see your staff report, and I appreciate that. My thoughts is that this is a 5-acre agricultural zone lot. The addition would be to the rear of the structure, adding on to the rear. I know the signs went out, the notices went out to adjoining property owners. we don't have anybody here clamoring that this is not right. While I like to stick with the ordinance where we can, we have the flexibility to bring in some outside perspective. The staff gave an alternative recommendation besides denial that if approved, condition it to the 50% of the principal structure, which would give them allowance up to 1,352. So that's, I think where staff was using some flexibility within the ordinance that's there. Any thoughts on that?
I think the 1,352 square foot is reasonable because it is an agricultural lot. It grants an acceptance of a variance without just blowing it out of the water. It also sets some precedents for future development in that area so that everybody doesn't build a 3,000 square foot garage. Because once we start granting variances, there's no reason to not continue to follow that trend. So that stays within those parameters for not only this, but future development.
Okay. Mr. Bonnick, could you live with a 1,352 square foot total? You don't have to stand up.
I'd have to go back and revisit the drawings. The reason it was spec'd out to that size is, so if you pull two vehicles in, you could open the doors on each side of the vehicle without hitting the wall or hitting the other vehicle.
Sure.
So,
But, and I hope you understand our dilemma. We've got an ordinance to work by. And already going over 1,000 square feet, our ordinance says you can't do that. But our staff has said that the flexibility there is no more than 50% of your house, and that would be the per Q Public, what the tax assessor uses would be give you 1,352 square feet. So that's where that number's come from. It just didn't come out of the blue sky. So on the regulatory side, yes, I like to be able to be consistent, and I think all of us up here like to do that and stay consistent. But I also understand what your purpose and intent and application is for. It is a larger lot. It's not in a platted subdivision like some of the smaller subdivisions, smaller lots that we have. It's 5 acres, it's zoned agricultural. Whether you live there for eternity or the next guy comes in and they've got a 1,500 square foot accessory structure that they may be able to use agriculturally. That's the things we look at. So I appreciate you letting us know that, right off the bat, you're not sure if 1,352 is something that would work for you.
yeah, I'll just have to go back and revisit that and see if it's doable.
Okay. Okay. Any other statements, questions, comments?
I'll make a motion if you're ready.
I'm ready for a motion.
I'm going to motion for approval with the condition that the accessory structure not exceed half the square footage of the house or approximately 1,352 square feet.
Okay. So there's a motion by Ms. Walhart to recommend approval of the variance request not to exceed 50% of the house or 1,352 square feet, whichever is less. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Mr. Bonnick, again, we're just a recommended body. City council may see it different. They've got that ability to be, they make the laws, we don't. They may approve your request as requested, or they may approve it as conditioned as we recommend.
Very good. Well, thank you for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Welcome to Social Circle.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming down.
Next item on the agenda is a consideration of the text amendment to table 2.3.1, the City Social Circles Unified Development Code.
Y'all have a good night.
Ashley, this is the request to introduce packaged liquor stores in the business district and light industrial district, correct?
Yes, and I do want to remind you guys that in a separate section of the UDC, there are extra provisions for package sales of liquor. It has to be an 8,000 square foot standalone building. It has to be well lit. The front door has to be visible from, I think, a collector street, if I remember that correctly off the top of my head. And there's the 8,000 square foot standalone building is the big one. So those are the three provisions I remember off the top of my head, but there are extra provisions. So it can't just pop up in whatever business district there is. There has to be ample room for all of those things to be met. So yeah, this text amendment is basically just because the referendum that the citizens voted yes to allow package sales of liquor within the city limits. We have to, this process takes a little bit longer than passing an alcohol ordinance because that just has to go to mayor and council. So we're in the process of getting the alcohol ordinance amended to reflect what the citizens voted for. So we're also in tandem doing the UDC update to allow for liquor sales in packaged liquor sales in as a permitted use in business and light industrial.
Well, I guess we have a zoning map available, do we? No. In a room that's being remodeled.
I apologize.
That's quite all right. Can you expound on why permitted use in light industrial?
It is similar to some of the other, some of the heavier commercial uses are permissible in light industrial, like fuel stations and stuff, I think are permitted use in light industrial. Sorry.
That's all right.
So a lot of our commercial uses are also permitted in light industrial, or they're a special use or a limited use. And a limited use just means they have a little bit of extra provisions with them. So really and truthfully, my apologies, it shouldn't be a P, it should be an L there.
Okay.
So I'll make that amendment if you guys choose to recommend something. The reason it should be an L is because of those extra provisions that I mentioned.
Those are those supplemental standards.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So should we also within the use standards column of liquor sales, should that
Yes.
reflect a subsection?
Yes, it should. Yes, that is my fault.
What section is that?
It
Do you have that
is,
available?
I can't, just give me one moment.
Good.
That would be section 3.3.14.C.
14.C?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if you guys choose to make a recommendation, staff would recommend that you include those changes in the motion as well.
Okay. Well, at this time, are there any questions of staff? If not, go ahead.
So when we say business or light industrial, what are some examples of places that it could go? I mean,
So-
8,000 square foot building is good size.
So when we first talked about the referendum in the work sessions, I believe the reason originally, this was also in tandem with the UDC rewrite.
Right.
Originally, I think we suggested, I modeled it a lot after Jackson, the city of Jackson, their alcohol ordinance. And I worked with them to kind of see what they have, because they don't have any like liquor stores attached to gas stations or anything like that, and that's what we want to stray away from.
Right.
So I originally proposed 10,000 square feet as the minimum square footage, but 8,000 came up because I think the Force Fitness building is 8,000 square feet, and that's like one of the bigger buildings. And I don't know if I have no idea what their business plans look like for that building or anything, but if there was an existing building in town, it wouldn't be 10,000 square feet.
So, I just pulled up the zoning map.
Yeah. So there's some commercial, our future development map wants our commercial corridor along North Cherokee, right where it kind of lines up with 11. That little
So
corridor.
that's way up there. And bypass area.
The next text amendment, that
I'm interested in looking at the,
light
the
industrial,
downtown corridor and seeing how far that stretches really.
you should be able to turn that on, Scott, in that, if you're on the interactive map. It's kind of hard to do it on your cell phone,
Yeah, it is hard.
admittedly.
I was just unfortunately looking at.
I'm
the
gonna be
wrong
so
map.
excited to have our screens.
I know. It will be very nice.
Can you play the Jeopardy music while I look for this?
I can sing it maybe. It wouldn't go very well.
That's okay. I was just trying to pull up a zoning map.
So I mean, so we're talking basically past the Freshway, down the bypass. And then how, like, would there be are there any other areas in town?
So the other areas are over by the parkway and stuff. All of that is kind of zone light industrial too. So the parkway, industrial boulevard has some light industrial, and this is just based off of zoning. I don't know what building footprints look like, or what has existing stuff on there. And East High Tower has, of course, some light industrial over there as well.
Right, so like around in the Mill Village and that area, like not far from Village Mart, those areas, is there any, like, no possibility it would go in one of those neighborhoods over there?
No, if
They couldn't put anything
well,
back in.
there's also measurement stipulations, like it has to be, I think it's like 50, we haven't officially settled on anything, but in the discussion that we had at the work session about the alcohol ordinance, which is separate from this.
Right.
I want to make that very clear, but, package retail sales of liquor would have to be 50 feet from anything residentially zoned, so anything starting with an R. There's also, state stipulations that we carry down that it has to be so far from an educational facility or school or something like that. It has to be so far from a church.
Okay,
It has to be so far from a public library. I mean, there's a lot of if-thens, crazy radiuses and measurements that you kind of have to do to get.
so basically we're talking the corridor.
That I think is ideally kind of where we would see it, is up at that four-way. But, who's to say somebody could come outside.
Somebody could do it on the truck route.
Yeah.
Because it's zone light industrial.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, there's that option too. So it just kind of depends. And if we get multiple applications, the way that the draft is written right now for the alcohol ordinance, it would be a lottery system. They'd have to have building plans. We'd have to see all of that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's a lot of layers.
Wow.
Right, like I'm feeling pretty underqualified to recommend anything for this one.
Well, so one good thing I know in application packets, this doesn't have to be in the ordinance, but someone's applying for an alcohol license. The due diligence is on them. If it's a requirement of the application that an applicant submit a boundary survey with radius map by a licensed engineer or surveyor showing the distance from, and as measured from either nearest property line to nearest property line, or direct route of travel from front door to front door of those distances. So from churches, schools, residential districts, that takes the responsibility off staff when they're looking at an application for alcohol license to say, does this meet it or not? That engineer or that surveyor's putting his or her stamp on that survey and saying that's true and accurate, that, you know, that's on them, that responsibility falls on their shoulders. As far as this, we're looking at a recommendation on
Where can
they
they
can
go?
be placed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what staff is recommending is a permitted use by right in the business district, a limited use by right, or limited use in light industrial, and,
It would be a limited use in both, I'm sorry.
limited use
Yeah,
in
limited
both?
use.
Because no matter where it goes, it's gotta be 8,000 square feet and it's gotta be well lit, it's gotta have at least $100,000 worth of merchandise.
Yeah,
But it's a
so,
liquor store, so.
okay, so limited use in business, limited use in light industrial, and
With a
supplemental
reference, yeah.
supplemental regulations in 3.3.14.c, so, you know, I don't think we need to get into the weeds of,
Licensure.
licensing and things like that, that's
Yeah, I
That's
just,
for them
I'm just,
people.
like, I know, I just
And I, you know, that's
just
why
want
we
to make sure that those areas, that those zones aren't gonna pop up in other places
Right.
where it might not be so.
And I think,
And if they try to bring that zoning, it's gotta
It's a
go through
limited use,
it's gotta go through the process. Well, no, it's not a
Because-
special use, but if they try to rezone a bit into business or light industrial outside of what's already zoned business or light industrial, in order to place a liquor store,
Yeah,
it'd have to come through the process, so you guys would see it.
yeah.
and I appreciate you asking about the opportunity for a liquor store in the Mill Village area. But I don't think.
Like I said, it's not strictly corridor, and there is an existing store there that sells.
Yeah, that
alcohol,
sells
but-
beer, yeah. But they wouldn't be able to meet the,
They're not gonna meet
Criteria.
those other criteria, I
Right.
don't think.
right. And
If I remember correctly, a lot of that is zoned R&D too, so, and we had a couple of those houses.
I had some, like currently neighboring commercial,
Mhm.
that I guess they got grouped into.
With business, yeah, so, but if it, I
That's
mean,
weird.
those are a lot of small lots over
They're
there.
very small.
So I don't think an 8,000 square foot store is gonna fit on those
They're
lots.
going to buy a bunch of, several properties and tear
And
it
put it
down.
all down, yeah, which,
Well, if there's no other questions for staff, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody who'd like to speak in favor of this request, please come to the podium. Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition, please come to the podium. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. All right. Any other discussion? Ms. Brown?
I'm good.
Staff,
stop.
Yeah.
Entertainment.
Staff would certainly entertain a motion. Chair will entertain a motion for this text amendment to table 2.3.1 of the City of Social Circle Unified Development Code to introduce liquor sales as a package store in the business and light industrial zoning districts as limited uses, and clarify the use standards as found in section 3.3.14.c.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna recommend, or I'm gonna motion that we approve as limited use within both business and light industrial, with adherence to the additional considerations in 3.3.14c. Does that sound right?
Yes, ma'am, sounds fine to me.
Okay.
Is there a second? Okay, Ms. Brown, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you so much. Next item is consideration of amendment to section 5.1.1B of the city's Unified Development Code, and 5.1 is Downtown Corridor Overlay District, and 5.1.1 is the general, it talks about the intent, purpose, and prohibited uses, so on and so forth. B is prohibited uses, and staff, it appears, is proposing to add package stores as prohibited uses in the Downtown Corridor Overlay District, which would prohibit, if I'm reading this correctly, any package stores, liquor stores from applying in that overlay district. Ms. Davis.
That is absolutely correct. So the downtown corridor district mimics the National Historic District as of right now. So I have it pulled up. Give me just 1 second. I thought I had it pulled up. So what we're doing here is a lot of the discussion we had when the referendum came up in work sessions with mayor and council was that under no circumstances did we want any sort of liquor store downtown or anything like that. This was something that we discussed having the ability to put in later in the UDC. So, 1 second. Here, so you guys can see where the downtown corridor overlay is. Yeah, that
Dark,
gray.
yeah, dark.
Mhm.
Can I,
Yeah, go ahead.
because, you know, I'm old and blind and I can't see it. Is this is the bypass as it makes that curve, right? And this is where you turn, this is Cherokee.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
Is that the bypass or is that the railroad?
That might be the railroad, actually. That
It's
is the
railroad.
railroad.
Corridor.
Yeah.
Corridor
Yeah.
overlay doesn't go that far.
No, yeah, the corridor overlay does not go to the bypass.
Have to think about that.
Yeah.
So this
I'm
is the
sorry.
railroad.
Yes, ma'am, that's the railroad.
This is still Cherokee.
Yeah, so. yeah,
So that's that part where,
cross
like,
over
the bridge, yeah, where it goes from north to south.
So the people with the.
No, it's still south.
I'm sorry.
Cherokee.
Yeah.
This is the light right here.
Mhm.
That's the light.
Okay.
So the people with the motorhome in the front yard, they couldn't be at a liquor store because it's downtown overlay.
I mean,
Always get out.
right by Spring Street, is that what you're talking about? That thing has been there since we lived here. Or no, not the motorhome. Are you talking about the single wide trailer that's on the corner? store?
No, yeah, the single wide trailer's still there, but the motorhome at the, further up.
I know where
right
you're
there
talking
before
about.
the bridge goes
Before
down
the bridge,
to
yeah, they
the
can't
village.
have a liquor store there. Okay.
You're looking for the east-west 5 hour.
I'm just looking to see how far it goes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We should have a public hearing for that.
We do. Is your presentation, how, I mean, that was.
Staff recommends approval.
No other questions, we'll open the public hearing. All those who'd like to speak in favor? All those who'd like to speak in opposed? We're not gonna sit here for 20 minutes. All right, public hearing's closed. Seems pretty cut and dry. Are there any questions?
No.
Just prohibiting it from the downtown corridor overlay. All right. Chair will entertain a motion.
Okay, well then.
Valerie's been speaking.
I mean,
online.
I just,
She's got it.
I motion that we approve the text amendment to 5.1.1B and prohibit package stores in the downtown corridor overlay.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second it.
All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. Thank you so much. Do not see any unfinished business on the agenda, nor any new business. Have anything for us? Okay.
I do not.
Well, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, for the love of Pete, I motion to adjourn.
This is gonna be the
No,
Valerie
well,
meeting.
I don't want it to
Clear
be
your
about,
house.
listen, I've done your job the last 2 years.
You know, apparently you've done a really good job, so maybe I'll just hand the reins to you.
Let's not.
So
That order.
We have a,
The order as it comes.
Are you about the Robert's Rules of Order?
Yes, with Travis joining us, have we motion, have we?
not yet, I'm waiting for a second.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would you like to second?
I said, get
Okay.
it.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you.
I mean, maybe we
Meeting's
I'll
a-
need a copy of Robert's.
Meeting's adjourned,
Yeah.
thank you.
I was gonna
So I
say,
can-
I can.